It's definitely not far-fetched to say that Bethesda has lost their way, and there are videos all over YouTube complaining about Bethesda. I've made a couple myself. And it's funny because you always see people in the comment sections of those videos, specifically my videos. I know I can speak from experience of people being like, "Oh my God, another hate video about Bethesda. Oh, you grifters just want to, you know that these videos are going to get views, and that's why you make them, and you're just trying to pay your rent, blah 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 blah." It's like, first of all, I'm not monetized, so I'm not making any money. I ain't paying no rent from this. But second of all, like, I'm just a diehard Bethesda Game Studios fan. I've been watching in the background, not making videos about it, not voicing my opinion. I've just been watching my favorite game studio kind of go downhill in a way. I've been watching my favorite game studio mistreat their fans, lie to their fans, practically call their fans stupid, argue with their fans anytime there's any sort of criticism. Like, I've been watching this with my own two eyes. I've been watching them blatantly ignore and deflect any sort of criticism that comes their way. I've watched them say things that are super out of touch and makes me feel like they're not listening at all. But I wanted to bring a more optimistic outlook to this video today because I do think Bethesda Game Studios has lost their way, but I think there's a path laid out in front of them on how to, get back on track. There's a specific set of things I think they need to do to get back in fans' good graces and get back to the top of the gaming industry where honestly they belong. It's where they were, it's where they should be now. There's still a massive group of people on the internet who are die-hard Bethesda defenders, and they're there to white knight for Bethesda anytime anybody says anything against them. And I really wish I could be like that. I really wish I could be a sunshine pumper and just be like, oh my, yeah, I'm fine with all this. All these games are great. What are you guys talking about? I wish I could be like that, but unfortunately I can't. The Elder Scrolls is my favorite game franchise of all time. Skyrim's my favorite game of all time. I love Oblivion. So it's like, I mean, I love the Elder Scrolls. I think the Elder Scrolls as a form of fictional media is in the same tier as Star Wars for me in terms of how compelling and interesting the lore is, how fleshed out everything is, how awesome all the provinces are, Oblivion, the Daedra, the Divines, like all that stuff. I find it so fascinating. I never got into Fallout quite as much. I played Fallout, but I never got super into it. But the Elder Scrolls is my bread and butter. I absolutely love and adore the Elder Scrolls. And a lot of my frustration comes from the fact it's been 14 years since we got an Elder Scrolls game. It's been 7 years since we got a teaser trailer for Elder Scrolls 6. We've learned nothing about that game in the last 7 years. They have not communicated anything to their fans after making them wait for this long, and it's frustrating. But anyway, I'm going to lay out the exact way that they could get back on track and get back in the good graces of their fans. And this is touching on pretty much all of Bethesda Game Studios' major IP and what they can do with each one of them. So we're going to get into that. So the first thing is they have to nail the Oblivion remake, the rumored Oblivion remake. We don't know 100% that it's coming, but a lot of the leaks have pretty much confirmed that it is. I don't know when we're going to see it. A lot of the rumors say that it's coming this year. I made a whole video about the Oblivion remake and what they need to do for that to be worthwhile and for it to not just be a pathetic cash grab. I talked about all the ways they need to remake that game, all the things they need to do with that game. But Skyrim sold 60 million copies and Oblivion sold 9 million copies. So Oblivion is still like a cult classic, and there's still a ton. I mean, 9 million copies is still a lot of copies of a game to be sold, but there is such a massive untapped market of players who played Skyrim but didn't play Oblivion, and mostly because they probably just think Oblivion is super outdated and the NPCs are ugly and the graphics aren't the best, and a lot of the stuff feels outdated, so they haven't given it a chance. So this is a perfect opportunity to tap into millions of people who are desperate for anything Elder Scrolls related, and you could provide them a full mainline entry Elder Scrolls game with Oblivion, remade for modern times with updated graphics, updated gameplay, updated voice acting, all that. You can provide that for the players. And if they nail that, if they give you a faithful, not lazy adaptation and remake of Oblivion, that is the first step to Bethesda Game Studios getting back on track. I genuinely think they can pull this off. I really do. But we just need to see it. We need to see it. And I'm doing a replay of Oblivion right now. I am playing Oblivion right now, and I'm telling you, man, it still holds up to this day. In my opinion, it's still very fun. And so I really think that if this is handled correctly, it could really blow up. Like with how much like meme culture dominates the internet and the virality of things, it's like if the Oblivion remake is still like funny and like quirky and like weird and stuff, a lot of this stuff could go viral on like TikTok and Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that, like clips of funny stuff happening, and it could just generate a ton of traffic to that game. So that's the first thing they need to do right. They need to give us this Oblivion remake, and it needs to be a faithful adaptation. It needs to be an actual remake with updated, modernized graphics and engine and all that stuff. They need to do this correctly. And if they do, I think number one, they're going to make a ton of money off it, and number two, they're going to get a lot of really good publicity. Now, I'm scared they're going to mess it up. I'm scared they're going to release some lazy cash grab, and then Skyblivion, the fan-made Oblivion remake, is going to come out, and it's going to be better, and people are going to be like, Bethesda, you guys are embarrassing. So it's like, it could either be really, really good or really catastrophic for them, and they really need it to be good. The next thing they need to do is continue to update Starfield, and the next Starfield DLC has to be really, really good. Everyone's already talked about how disappointing Starfield was, how they kind of missed the mark with Starfield, and I'll be the first to say, I made a video about how disappointed I was in Starfield, but I'll be the first to say, like, objectively speaking, like, if that game came out in 2011, people would have been all over it. People would have thought it was amazing. And I know you may disagree with that because of the procedurally generated stuff, the lack of handcrafted content, this, that, and the other. But seriously, if you go back in time to 2011 and Starfield came out, I guarantee you that would have been a Game of the Year contender. 100%. The problem is Bethesda is clearly way off the mark in terms of where the gaming industry is right now. If you just look at other single-player RPGs that have come out in the last, around the time that Starfield came out, you got Cyberpunk 2077, Baldur's Gate 3, even recently Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Those games showed that the single-player RPG genre has taken massive strides this way, and so when they released Starfield and it felt like a last gen game in a lot of ways, when it didn't innovate on anything and it just felt lifeless and lazy in some departments, that generated a lot of hate from people. When we heard that there was going to be an open world space RPG made by the creators of Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout, and all that, the hype was insurmountable. So when they released a product that wasn't necessarily terrible at face value, it just didn't come anywhere close to expectations, and it wasn't the Bethesda Game Studios we know and love. And that's why Starfield gets so much hate. So, Shattered Space was a pathetic attempt at a DLC. It was not good. It was not, they needed Shattered Space to be like Phantom Liberty for them. Phantom Liberty for Cyberpunk 2077, one of the best DLCs I've ever played, improved on all kinds of stuff from the base game, gave you a whole new area to explore. The story of Phantom Liberty was incredibly compelling. The characters were amazing. The writing was amazing. And it was basically a whole new game. And that's what a major expansion that costs $35 to $40, that's what that's supposed to be. So when Shattered Space came out and it was the same price as Phantom Liberty, but it was just it was just pathetic in comparison, that hurt Starfield even more. That hurt Bethesda's reputation even more. So the next Starfield DLC, take as much time as you need. I don't know how many developers are still working on Starfield. I don't know how many of them they've pulled off of Starfield to throw onto Elder Scrolls 6. I don't know. But that group that's working on the next Starfield DLC, I think it's going to be called Starborn or something like that. If it's even still coming, we don't know. But they have got to just take their time. I don't really think there's any way to fix some of the core issues with Starfield, like the thousands of procedurally generated planets with nothing on them and no reason to explore any of them. I don't know if there's any way to fix that unless you're creating handcrafted content for all of these planets and, spacing it out through the whole game. But even then, I don't know how you're going to be able to do that on such a huge scale. Maybe they employ some of the Creation Club people to keep adding stuff, because they do have the Creation Club. And last time I was on there was some cool stuff on there, but it's still just not that good. But at the end of the day, I think that, you have an open world sandbox space RPG with thousands of planets, and there's so much potential for the modding community there. We've seen how much the modding community has kept Skyrim alive over the years. I think they could do that. I really think that they could do that with Starfield. Maybe not on the same level of success, but support the modding community. The next DLC needs to be an actually good DLC, and maybe the goodwill for Starfield will somewhat be there. I don't know what the interest level will even be for the next Starfield DLC. I don't know how many people are going to buy it. But, if it's really, really good, it might give some of the naysayers a reason to come back. Like, for me right now, I have no reason to touch Starfield ever again, honestly, until they release a sequel. So if they were to release an actually really good DLC that has good writing and an interesting story, interesting characters, interesting locations, and adds some good stuff and fixes some of the core issues in the game, I might go back to it. I don't know. So anyway, fixing Starfield, releasing a good Starfield DLC. That's the next thing that they have to do to get back in the good graces of people. The third thing, obviously, is the Elder Scrolls 6. And some leaks came out about the Elder Scrolls 6 a couple of weeks ago. I made a video about it and kind of just talked about some of that. But we really don't know anything concrete about that game at all. They have literally not told us anything. So the first thing they need to do to get back in the good graces of people is actually show something from that game. Show us anything. I don't even care. It could be a 15-second video of a couple towns and like 2 seconds of combat gameplay, and I'm good. I'm good for like 2 years, man. I'm good until y'all release the first teaser trailer. Like, that's cool. Or the first actual trailer. I'm cool. That's cool with me. Literally just anything. I'm starving for anything Elder Scrolls related, specifically Elder Scrolls 6 related. I want to know, man. I just want to get my hands on that game. I don't want to be 35 years old with a mortgage and 2 kids before that game comes out. I can't do it. I can't wait that long. Please, Bethesda. So the first thing they need to do is show something about the Elder Scrolls 6 sometime soon, preferably this year. And then when they release the Elder Scrolls 6, it better be a banger. They better be cooking up a generational title right now. All of this stuff about them not learning from their mistakes and about them not doing anything right lately and all the problems with the fans and all the complaints about us feeling like they're not listening to criticism. Hopefully all of that is just them staying silent and they're cooking stuff up in the back and they're actually listening and taking the feedback, because the Elder Scrolls 6, you cannot mess that up. Like, genuinely, for Bethesda, the Elder Scrolls 6 is the most make or break game they have ever made, except for maybe Morrowind, because Morrowind literally saved them from going out of business. But in terms of just, I mean, Bethesda's never been as well known as they are right now. Like, obviously when Skyrim came out, that was their big explosion, but they've been in the news, for better or worse, good or bad. They have been in the news a lot over the last few years, and now they are pretty much universally known by people who play video games. So they have the spotlight on them for the Elder Scrolls 6. They have to deliver. They can't do what they did with Starfield, where they released something experimental, and people might like it, they might not like it. Oh, damn, people didn't like it. Like, that didn't really kill them. It pissed people off, and it's definitely altered the discourse around Bethesda for sure, but that did not kill them. That was not the end of the world for them. If they release the Elder Scrolls 6 and it's not better than Skyrim, or at least as good, but even then, I mean, Skyrim is a 14-year-old game, so there's so much they need to improve upon from that game. It has to be better. It literally has to be better, or they're done for. Like, if the Elder Scrolls 6 is a flop, you can go ahead and throw any sort of excitement for anything BGS releases ever again. So I guess we'll just have to see what they do with Elder Scrolls 6, but it needs to be a certified hood classic. It needs to be a straight up banger, or they're going to be in trouble, because I mean, you just can't make people wait 14 years for the next Elder Scrolls game and then release something that's not mind-blowingly amazing. Like, that game needs to be held in similar regard to games like The Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Baldur's Gate 3. That's the tier of game that Elder Scrolls 6 needs to be. Like, that, again, I'm sorry, a lot of people think that there's no hope of that happening. There is no way Bethesda ever gets close to that. And I understand why people feel that way, but they have to. They have to. So I don't know how long Elder Scrolls 6 is going to take. We have no idea how far along into production it is. We don't know anything about that game. But they just cannot screw that up. They cannot afford to screw that up. So we'll just have to see. It's really hard to talk about the Elder Scrolls 6 in general when we know nothing about it. So at the end of the day, you got to get it right or you're cooked. And then finally, there's the Fallout franchise. And the Fallout franchise is one that I've never been super into. I played Fallout New Vegas, I played Fallout 3, I played Fallout 4, but I never beat any of them and I never got super into it. I'm just not the biggest post-apocalyptic fan, but I get the hype. I see the vision. I get why people like the aesthetic of it. I get why people enjoy Fallout, because it's the same formula as the Elder Scrolls, except it's in a, post-apocalyptic setting with a very unique style and lore and stuff like that. So I get it. Me, I'm just more of a fantasy fan, and I think the Elder Scrolls is overall just like, as a fantasy universe, I just think the Elder Scrolls is the best there is. Better than Game of Thrones, which I love, by the way. Better than Baldur's Gate, better than Diablo, better than any of these other fantasy universes. I think the Elder Scrolls is the best of the best. So anyway, I'm supposed to be talking about Fallout, and here I am going on a tangent about how great Elder Scrolls is and how awesome it is. But Fallout, the next Fallout game, which Lord knows when that'll come out. I mean, Elder Scrolls 6 is probably 2-3 years away, so that'll make it, 2028 by the time that game comes out, and then they're going to have to shift all their... obviously, they're probably going to release 1 or 2 DLCs for the Elder Scrolls 6. If it's a massive success, they might release more than that, because they want to capitalize on some goodwill that they haven't had lately. But after the Elder Scrolls 6 is when they're going to work on the next Fallout game, and the next Fallout game, it's got to be a return to form for Fallout. A lot of people didn't like Fallout 4 because of, the dialogue wheel, and they didn't like the choice and consequences. They didn't feel like the open world was quite as fun to explore as the previous games. So all that stuff's going to have to be fleshed out. It's pretty much a similar situation for the Elder Scrolls 6. But if the Elder Scrolls 6 flops or is not that good, I am almost willing to guarantee that the hype for Fallout 5 will be way lower than they probably anticipate it being. So they better hope they don't screw that up. So the next Fallout game needs to be really good, but that's probably, you're probably looking at 2032, 2034 by the time, if they continue on the same pace they're at right now. If they find a way to make their games quicker, then maybe, but as of right now, it looks like you're looking well into 2030s before you're seeing the next Fallout game. So hard to even speculate on what that game is going to be. Hard to even speculate on what they could do for it or whatever, or when it's going to come out, because Elder Scrolls 6 is still so far away. And I think, again, one of the core issues with Bethesda is just how long it takes to make their games. It's honestly ridiculous. Rockstar can get away with it because Rockstar just releases generational title. Every time Rockstar releases a game, it gets better and better, and they push the envelope. And you know that when Rockstar releases a game, it's going to be one of the best games you've ever played. That's how Rockstar is. So they can get away with that. I still think they take way too long to make their games, but they can get away with that. A game studio like Bethesda Game Studios, who has multiple IPs with multiple massive fan bases, it's like if we have to wait for if Fallout fans have to wait until Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, and then once Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, then people will start working on Fallout 5. It's like, dude, people who were playing Fallout 3 are going to be in their late 40s early 50s by the time Fallout 5 comes out. That's absolutely crazy, man. That's crazy, and you should not make your fans wait that long, but it is what it is. Fallout 5 is still probably over a decade away, and that's just crazy to think about. It's so crazy to think about. If it's a decade away, then that means it'll be 20 years between Fallout 4 and Fallout 5. 20 years. It's already going to be 17 years between Skyrim and the next Elder Scrolls game. And then you're making Fallout fans wait 20 years for a mainline installment. Fallout 76 doesn't count. So the difference between Fallout 4 to Fallout 5 will be around 20 years. And that's just unfair to your fans. And then past that, obviously Starfield 2 will have happened eventually. And I think Starfield 1 was a good starting point for open world space RPG franchise. But, obviously the sequel is going to have to be significantly better with more of a focus on handcrafted content and stuff. But that, I'll be 40 something by the time that game comes out. And so, there's not even worth talking about that. As long as they continue on their current development cycle. Maybe they'll figure out a way to get faster with their game development. I don't know. But at the end of the day, they take way too long to make their games. But these are the ways that I think that Bethesda can get back on track. A lot of this might seem like common sense. Release good games. Wow, what a surprise. But if they were to do all of these things that I just talked about in this video, if they were to do all these things successfully, there's no reason why in 10 years they can't be right back where they were in terms of being in the good graces of fans. At some point, maybe we'll look back on this era of Bethesda Game Studios as just a blip on the radar, and they turned it around and got right back to being the studio we know and love. A lot of people believe that the studio we know and love is dead and gone, and that we will never hear from them again. And those people might be right. They might be right. But I'm going to maintain some semblance of optimism and hope that they can get to where we need them to be. So anyway, that's going to be the video for me today. Another Bethesda video. Got to pay my rent, got to get those views from the channel that's not monetized. yeah. So if you like this video, leave a like. I'm going to post Bethesda videos periodically. If anything ever comes out about Elder Scrolls 6, I'll post that. Same with the Oblivion remake. I'll stay on top of that news. And then I post all kinds of other gaming videos. So if you want to subscribe and see more of those, feel free to do so. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment if you want to talk about it. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.